Dr. H. Wainhouse is the Distinguished Research Professor of Theology, Law, Culture, and Archaeology at Faith International University and Seminary in Tacoma, Washington. He and his wife, Irina, have taught and directed many tours in the Mediterranean and Middle East, including Israel, Greece, Egypt, Jordan, Italy, and Turkey, particularly with the Biblical Archaeological Society. Dr. House has taught biblical and theological studies at several universities and seminaries during a teaching career of over 50 years and has written 150 articles and 50 books, including the Evangelical Dictionary of World Religions, The Jesus Who Never Lived, Exposing False Christs and Finding the Real Jesus, the Zondervan Handbook of Biblical Archaeology, Israel, the Land and the People, an Evangelical Affirmation of God's Promises, and editor of the Nelson NKJV Study Bible and Nelson New Illustrated Bible Commentary. Dr. House is the general editor of the Evangelical Exegetical Commentary Series, 44 volumes, with Logos, Faith Life. It is the knowledge amassed from these experiences, along with the assistance of biblical scholars at a variety of universities and seminaries throughout the world, that provides the information contained in his latest project, the House Visual Study Bible Online. Thank you for joining Archaeology and the Lands of the Bible with Dr. H. Wainhouse.
And here we are, time for fun and games again with Dr.
Woohoo.
H. Wainhouse. All the way from Boston this week.
Boston.
Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. I want to be sure I had that push right.
And we can see you too, so better be
Well,
good.
let me tell you something. I've been in Boston and I've decided something.
Uh-oh.
I would never move here.
I wonder why.
I won't even go into it. There are good things. Don't get me wrong. Paul Revere was here, but
That's right.
generally speaking, this town is so busy, so big, and it's just this is not my kind of place.
There you go.
It's not your kind of town. Oh, that would be Chicago. That's okay.
That's right.
I'll spill the beans why. It's because it's too cold.
Oh,
Very
well,
good.
it does get cold out there. Northeast. Woo.
But anyway, we'll be back this coming Friday back home. I'll be glad to be with everyone there. And I'm sure Rena will be too.
Cool.
But I love being with you.
Well, that's even better.
It's just an exciting time every time I think about being on Tuesday night with you to talk about those things that relate to the biblical history and how they relate to the Bible. A lot of people have almost no access to this, and so this is really a good time for me, and I hope for you.
Well, and we've had some interesting input. We've had some people who aren't with us when we're live, but they are watching it, and like what you're doing. So, what do you want to tell them before we bring up the PowerPoint images?
What do you want? What do I want to tell you?
I ask you first.
Okay. I just want to be sure I understand. I don't like to step on people's toes or whatever.
I have steel toes. I don't really care.
Okay.
There you go.
Anyway, it's just that it's a place here. I'm with a number of scholars. I run into so many people. It's amazing. People that I've known throughout the last many years who are here and had a chance to visit with them and talk to them. And that's been interesting. It's also been interesting to see there's a change in this society. I used to be the president of this group, the Evangelical Theological Society, and there's a lot of things we try to do to really enforce the truth of the Scripture and to uphold the inerrancy of the scriptural text. And I've seen some unfortunate deviation from some of these things.
Yeah.
And what that tells me, though, there's a lot of these people who are teaching at various schools, colleges and seminaries and so forth throughout the country. No doubt are sharing some of these aberrant ideas with their students that will also cause that to pass on down into the local churches, which disturbs me.
Yeah.
We already have enough people already who are just have bent their knees to the woke culture, even within the pastoral line of the church.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we see these guys who are probably, not all of them, don't get me wrong, but there's a number of them that are probably going to contribute to that negative aspect.
That's bad.
So that's why I'm giving a paper tomorrow to try to counteract some of that. And so, anyway,
Mm.
that just gives you a few of my thoughts as we move through this. But the fact is, we're going to talk about the Bible and archaeology, and I'm not going to say anything until I see my slides coming up to be sure that we got that straight. But
Okay. So now you're going to put, now the onus is on me. I see how that is.
What time will you be giving your lecture tomorrow so we can all be in prayer for you?
9:30 in the morning here Pacific time.
All right.
I said that wrong. I said that wrong.
That's Eastern, right?
Eastern time zone.
Eastern time.
Yeah, Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
Early
So
in
it'd
the
be
morning.
8:30 our time.
Yep.
Yeah, 8:30 your time.
And 7:30 Mountain over there for Colorado.
Irene and I went to listen to some today, and a couple of the people that were giving presentations have just absolutely, they've gone to the fact that Eve had nothing to do with the human race, and the buying into to the evolutionary perspectives, and just so many things. And I'm thinking this doesn't even sound like the same society I was involved in so heavily for so many years, and particularly became the new president. A lot of things have changed. So trying to decide, how do I really focus on this and make a difference if I can. So you can keep that in prayer. Listen, we're going to look at some stuff on the Messiah. Is that what we're doing tonight, or the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Ooh,
Dead Sea Scrolls,
Qumran.
Qumran community, and the concept of Messiah in Qumran and the Bible.
There you go.
It's interesting. I try to think, what can I talk about that would be interesting to the people listening, but also what kinds of information would make a difference in how they understand Scripture and how they understand the ancient world. So that's what we're trying to pull together here. And I thought a study, we sort of deviated. We've been doing with various locations and throughout the Mediterranean, Middle East, and those places. But actually not the Middle East yet, but I was meant the Asia Minor and the lands of Paul and so forth. But this right here, we're going to go to Qumran, and everybody's heard of Qumran, right? The Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yep.
Right.
So I thought we'd sort of take a look at some of it, and I'm going to tackle tonight this, and I don't know how far we'll get, but we'll talk about the Messianic community, what that means, and Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, how that relates to Jesus in some of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then I think we'll maybe go in and just start discussing a little bit about archaeology and Jesus himself. What do we know that comes from archaeological information? And you already know what comes from the Bible, hopefully. We're going to talk about the issues of archaeology and how that relates to the Bible in reference to Jesus. I thought that might be good because we're moving toward the Christmas season.
Yeah.
See, so I thought this might be a good area to tackle for a few times as we're able. I'm not sure of all the timing that Don Vino's. He's got some things happening, but at this point, we'll try to do all we can to give you some information of that before we get too far in.
Yeah, well, and this is just kind of a look at the archaeology can help people understand certain things in the Bible that they may not be aware of when they're reading the text.
Yeah, right.
So, and as you know, I really love the Jewishness of the New Testament, and I think, unfortunately, too many pastors are unaware of that. So they miss some important elements in their telling the story.
Yeah. So we're gonna fill in some of those holes tonight. All right.
Good to know.
Early understanding of the Messiah among the Jewish people. What were these people thinking? They didn't, they had no direct knowledge at this juncture about the person that was going to be walking in their presence. But they knew that Messiah was sometimes coming. And of course, I think about us sometimes looking for the coming of the Lord for us in the future times. And we don't know when that is, and we'll not get into that subject theologically right now. I mean, there's so much to say. But the fact is, what was the anticipation? That's what we're going to talk about. Early understanding. Messianic Judaism And much of that has to do with what we call Qumran, and also the words Essene community, and I'll talk about what all that means. So here's what you're getting: a look at the desert at the point where you have some of the Qumranic community is found. By the way, the Essenes that I mentioned a moment ago, who make up the Qumran community, also had a portion of the city of Jerusalem at the time. It's also Essene, and also up into Syria, were Essenes who were involved. So it wasn't all just at the Dead Sea. It was the Essenes moved to a variety of different places there and held their viewpoints.
Wow.
So you can see here the little star that gives you perspective. So we'll hold on to that for a moment, because you have an indication here of the location of Qumran in the area of Israel. Now, you can't really see Qumran per se if you were at the Herodian, for example, outside of Bethlehem. But you notice here we have an indication of the mountains. And what's throwing me off here as I'm looking at this a little bit is the water that's there. But I want to say that's probably, it must be, it looks like the area that comes from the Jordan up to what we call the Dead Sea. And that should be it. But I'm looking for some other water places going up, and it doesn't show it very well. Go up to the upper portion of the slide if you want to look at it with me. See, there were bodies of water that were not very large, but bodies of water that came out of the area of the Mount Hermon in the mountains that came into what we call the Jordan River. You know that term? The Jordan River is never usually depicted on maps very well because it is really winding back and forth like a snake. If you had it in your hands and trying to do it, it just goes, it'd be just going up and down. And the Jordan River goes into a place called the Kinneret. The Kinneret, actually, is what I meant to say. The Kinneret are also known as somehow Yom Kinneret. And I wish sometimes that Bible translators, before they translated the Bible, would go to the land of Israel and Egypt and some of these places and look around before they translated. They wouldn't get so much wrong. Because you find that the Kinneret is actually what we call the Galilee, the Sea of Galilee. They would call it Kinneret. And it is not, it's maybe a medium-sized Texas lake. So it's not that big, really. So that comes from the Jordan area it actually travels from above where you think of Caesarea Philippi coming on down. It goes underneath Caesarea Philippi. It comes from Tel Dan as a very cold, rushing water. I've been in the middle of all these things. And it keeps on coming down. And as it comes down, it finally gets through the sea. It actually travels through the Sea of Galilee, coming all the way down to finally to become part of what we think of as the Dead Sea, or what the Old Testament they call the Salt Sea. Why would they call it the Salt Sea?
Well,
salt.
Yeah, it gives it away a little bit.
A lot of salt. You cannot swim very, very well in the Dead Sea. I bounced in it a few times. But if you put on diving gear, it wouldn't do you a lick of good. If you think you go down a foot or two and you'll be back up.
Oh my goodness.
So it's very salty, and it's called the Dead Sea. Why would you call it the Dead Sea?
And nothing lives there.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Why don't they move there? The fish.
They don't like salt. Well, not that much.
That's right.
Bless you.
They couldn't swim in it for sure.
Not
but
that much.
Goes on down, keeps going down until it comes finally to the Red Sea, but that's not where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So if you look at Qumran, you'll look a little bit to the left and down. I can't see it. I haven't got my glasses on right now.
Oh no.
But it's a little bit to the looking toward the west, and you'll see Jerusalem if you can look real well there.
Oh, Jerusalem is
There
right
it
here.
is.
Yeah, can't quite see it for myself. Okay, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that course goes on then the cities and so forth out to what we call the Mediterranean
Mm-hmm.
Sea. So the Mediterranean is between the land masses, is why they use that term.
Mm-hmm.
Land masses. So that's Qumran. That's where it started. And that's what we're going to talk about here.
Right. So you have just kind of get people. You got Qumran here. You have Jerusalem, and Bethlehem are here.
Mm-hmm.
Hebron is here. And then you can come over to Lydda is here. Caesarea is here. Joppa is down here. So
Samaria up there.
A lot of cities, a lot of small cities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dr.
Megiddo.
House, can I,
And not nary a Dunkin' Donut. I don't know.
No, not even.
Dr.
No,
Dr.
no,
House,
no
can I-
Subway, nothing good to eat. You can get a falafel if you know the right place to go.
That's right. Yeah.
yeah, I
But
wanted
listen,
to make
if
a
you were
comment.
to be and go down to Hebron, what would be the importance of Hebron?
Hebron. It rings a bell. Just.
Mount Hebron or Sinai?
Isn't that where
Hebron-
Abraham was buried in Sarah? Weren't they-
Somebody actually paid for a grave site there for someone,
Yeah.
It was Abraham.
and he paid it to an individual who was a Hittite.
That's correct.
And we've talked about the Hittites already a little bit.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Well, anyway, let's keep moving the thing forward. Okay, now this right here is a very famous, very, very famous place
Mm-hmm.
because something was found in these caves,
Dead Sea Scrolls, baby.
Dead Sea Scrolls, and this is called Cave Scroll number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect the reason why they call it Cave number 1, caves, is because the major scrolls were found in this location, and also it's the first one they went to.
That would be my guess.
So
Yeah.
that worked out well.
No, both are important. Both
Sure
are
did.
important. Because see, they were found by a couple of young, and I've actually met the man, had a chance to be with him and talk to him a bit.
Oh.
He was fairly old when I did that and talked to him. I'm not sure what he's around anymore, but he and his friend or brother, I don't know which it was, were traveling around with their sheep.
Right.
And one of the sheep fell into a hole up there on the nearest one to me as I'm looking down.
Mm.
So you've got you've got another cave to the left and another above. The one we're talking about is that big one there, because
There.
they actually went into that and they found what was called the Isaiah scrolls
Mm-hmm.
and many others in a bunch of large jars. And it was purely by accident.
Right.
But it became very important and is fairly significant for something that you might not think about.
Mm.
This is right before the 1948 war,
Right.
when Israel was finally given by the United Nations, and Britain was very much involved in it, the right to the access of having a nation there,
Right.
what we think of today. And of course, that's their land that they had for thousands of years anyway. But
Sure.
you have that situation politically that came up. But at that time, they found these scrolls, and they were actually sold to someone for a fairly good amount of money and advertised in the New York Times, scrolls for sale. And the man who sold it, he got them out in Jewish hands before 1948, an Arab man did.
Mm.
So these are all really phenomenal kinds of events that occurred that relate to some of the political and important biblical statements. Has anyone gone to the scroll of the book in Israel and Jerusalem?
Yes, I have.
I have.
Yeah, you have? Okay, good. I have I had permission because I paid for it to do it, but I have video and photos all the way through the Hebrew Museum as well as the Shrine of the Book. I have actually shots of all the stuff and talking about it. One of these days I'll get that out, but of the various scrolls that are laid there. So it's a great place. Cave 1, you remember that, and that's where the Isaiah scroll was found. That's very important.
So you spoke with the actual when they were youth at the time. They were young kids at the time, right?
No, I spoke to him when he was I don't know, probably 80 years old.
Right. But I'm saying at that time when they found it, they were very young.
Oh, yes, they were very young men. They were looking for their sheep that they were young Arab shepherd boys.
Yeah.
Looking for their sheep, and lo and behold, they heard noise down there, and they were going to get their sheep, and what they found was a treasure.
Right. That was pretty good. That was pretty cool.
Great story.
Awesome.
And others, not that has been the most spectacular, probably, of all the scrolls that have been found. But there have been many other scrolls found throughout the Qumranic area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the reason why they would be found in the Qumran area is because that's where you had Essenes who copied Scripture.
Right.
In what we call, Qumran. So, but people hadn't followed the history textbooks, hadn't taught them that much in Arab school. It's all by accident.
Yeah.
That's an example looking down on the community itself, not actually inside the. You'd have to look very carefully to see Cave 1 about at an angle.
It's right around there, yeah.
Yeah, there it is right there. That's the area. And so these are very deep areas of travel. Matter of fact, a man who was a very famous Arab archaeologist, he also said that, I'm wrong on that. I think he's a Jewish archaeologist, and he has a great statement that I'll show you guys later. Then I don't want to divulge it right now. But in these areas of these hills there around Qumran and all that desert area, they have deep areas of walking with. So you think, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. David's probably referring to these low areas around the mountains here.
They're very deep.
Valley below.
Yeah, you can see how deep they are, the crevices.
And so the story that this is a true story. The man who said something that I'm going to show you later, in which he says such a strong statement about the Bible and archaeology, was a famous archaeologist, and he knew, but even then it doesn't help always, that you want to make sure you're not in the low area of those particular gullies if there's certain portions of certain times of the land when you have massive movement of water through these.
Oh, yeah.
And you have, and if you go to Masada, for example, which is that we'll probably look at that later sometime, but you have all these places around that have built-in movement where the water would move to go into caverns where they would build up water to live on. The people in Masada. And I say that because thunderstorms every year take place, and the water comes down and just drenches the whole area here. And it's good not to be there when that's happening.
Go to the high ground, huh?
High ground. But people make mistakes. Even a talented and very knowledgeable archaeologist made a mistake.
Wow. Nice.
Another look at Qumran, but you can't see the Qumran Cave 1 because we're at a different angle, a little closer. But there's something important to tell you here about this particular site. Something modern. And that is, go ahead, please, tell me.
Let's see. This picture's kind of small.
It is small. These areas, for example, you have baptistries, as we would use our term today. They were called mikveh, and it's a plural form, mikveh, where people would be baptized at Qumran. They believed in baptism, as we would use the term.
Right.
There are places that were where they copied manuscripts. They did this day and night in these rooms and copied manuscripts. Very tediously, very carefully, to the point that there's almost no difference between the Qumran materials that predate the time of Christ 100 years and the later manuscripts that we used in seminary when I was in seminary, what was called the Masoretic text. 1,000 years earlier, they copied it in Qumran and they've compared the Masoretic text and the Qumran text, and there's virtually no distinction between them. They were so careful with what they did and what people did. So anyway, if you go up the area to that little look at that place at the top on that ledge.
Oh, you mean that truck or whatever that is?
That right there.
What is that?
Yeah, point that out really good, because this is the area my friend Randall Price. Anybody know him?
Yeah, I met him last year.
Okay, Randall Price. He actually, that's where he was doing some of his excavations several years ago when he found out in the, I don't know if it was the New York Times or somebody like that, but he was digging for some things, seeking to find out, was there anything going on at that point in Qumran? It looks blank, but they found a few examples of human usage of the area.
So is that like a hut or a little covering?
You mean the lands mass or a new covering?
No, it's like a tent
little
or something.
thing.
Oh, that right there could be that little shed that's there. You can sit under the cool of the day and look at K1. I'll show that to you sometime.
Cool.
Okay.
The Qumran community in Jerusalem. What did I say about this earlier? Anybody remember?
That there's a Qumran community in Jerusalem.
And what were they called?
Essenes.
Essenes, very good. So the Essenes were at Qumran. They were in a location inside Jerusalem, their own little area. And they also had another area in Antioch in Syria. So they were not all hermits, as it were.
Right.
Off in Qumran. In Qumran, they have basically a practice that appears to not have children. Because it's basically an all-male community. And so now there's a debate on that question. I'm not
kind of sad
that debate, but there is a debate. But it appears that they were largely did not have women there. If you go watch their film, if you go at Qumran, they'll tell you that John the Baptist came there. There's not a shred of evidence that's true, but it makes a story. And that John wandering around in the desert, came to Qumran, stayed a while, and left.
when he found out there were no women, probably.
John never had a woman.
That's true.
I'm out of here. Yeah,
I'm done here.
He did eat locusts and wild honey, and no woman would cook that.
That's true.
So there you have it. I'm trying to make sure you understand the Bible and history.
Gotcha.
But anyway,
so the Essenes had their own gate, even.
Ooh.
They had a gate in Jerusalem, and you find their area up there a little bit higher.
Well, this is right here at the gate of the Essenes.
Yeah, I can't. Okay, can you read that?
Well,
I can. Right on the right here, I have Hinnom Valley as number 1, which is here. Gate of the Essenes is right here.
Okay.
Bethso. I'm not sure what Bethso is, but that is.
I can't read that. My eyesight. I just need my glasses.
Okay. This right here is Bethso, whatever that is. Looks like a little building of some kind. Herodian Street is right here. So they come in the Essenes Gate on Herodian Street. Then you have a sewage channel.
Well, that's horrible.
5.
That's all in Jerusalem, but there's connection there to the
yeah. See, if it was me, I'd change the channel, but
okay. Well, let's keep moving.
Okay.
I want to move into some really important stuff here soon, but I want to give you some background to what's going on here. This is just community again. It's a scene. That's the point to realize. Now, if you're going to find out in a few minutes that the Essenes and Jesus held many points in common. You're also going to be surprised, and this is not about the Essenes specifically, but because we think about the Pharisees as all being bad guys, but Jesus one time said, "You should do what they say and not what they do."
Right.
Remember that statement?
Oh yeah.
Because Jesus theologically, and in many, many ways, not in every way, please understand, but in many ways, Jesus and the Pharisees, for example, were closer in their theology than we usually think about. And certainly not in any way hardly with the Sadducees,
Oh yeah.
but you're going to find also the Essenes and the Pharisees held some points in commonality.
Sure.
So these are things that help us to understand biblical text oftentimes if we recognize what's going on in the passage. Remember, Jesus said it's fine on certain points. He says you need to follow the teachers, and he didn't mean in everything, but there are areas in which they were accurate. And so, anyway, keep moving.
Okay, so we have, by the way, the city of David is not the whole of Jerusalem, is it?
No.
It's that section there.
There's I don't know if you can see that there on that. Is that if you can read that, I can't. But I didn't get prepared to have an alternative, of my own of this. But when you look at the southern portion of the Temple Mount, there's the 3 gates there,
Okay.
although they're basically because of the Islamic
Right.
mosque that was put in. You can't go in the same way that people would have done in the days of Jesus. They would have actually walked down and up on the Temple Mount.
Right.
There's also a place they would have actually paid their tribute before they got into the temple. But that's another story. And then you have 31 mikveh or baptismal pools to the southern wall of Temple Mount as you move across the street. Matter of fact, we've now found, I shouldn't say I didn't, but I know scholars have found, and I've climbed those most of the steps. Actually, from the Pool of Siloam at the bottom of the area that we call the City of David, and I'll talk more about it.
It's right here. Pool of Siloam is here.
Up to the mikveh that we see in the southern area of the temple.
Cool.
So let's look at this just a moment. Is you say the Pool of Siloam there?
Yeah, it's on the corner, bottom.
It's on the corner.
At the bottom.
Yeah. There's something special happened at the Pool of Siloam. 2 things. One in the life of Christ and one of the days of David.
The life of Christ. Let's see.
Surely someone knows.
I don't.
Didn't Jesus heal a cripple at the Pool of Siloam?
It was a blind man. He healed a blind guy.
He had a blind man.
Blind man, John chapter 9.
Jesus healed him.
Right.
By the way, you have also Solomon, who came riding on a donkey
Oh, okay.
to the Pool of Siloam down the hill that goes from the Temple Mount.
Ooh.
It's going deep. It goes, it gets lower and lower and lower, as you go down. And so Solomon was declared king of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a big issue. There's a whole story going to that I'm not going to take time. You should read on it sometime. It's interesting. But why was he on a donkey instead of a big charger horse?
Well, that was a prophecy.
Symbol of peace. It was a symbol of peace.
We're talking about Solomon now, not Jesus.
Oh,
Symbol of peace.
Symbol of peace. And that's an important figure, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was Solomon largely?
I don't know if he was a warring king. He was there was a peaceful kingdom. It was prosperous. It was
More of a builder.
a builder. It was the most prosperous time in Israel.
Yeah, he wasn't a warring king at all.
Right.
Matter of fact, he made deals with everybody in the world
Yeah,
around.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
he put up the temple.
right. That's right. David was the warrior. That's why he couldn't build it.
That's right. You got it right, see?
Yeah.
So there's a reason for these things being the way they are, and I can't take them all in. I'm just fitting certain things. That Solomon became the king, and he was anointed there, and it reflects what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Jesus was also king to the Pool of Siloam, but he healed a man of his blindness.
Right. John
Okay.
chapter 9. And also the name the name Siloam means sent, I believe, symbolizing that Jesus is the one sent by God,
Yeah.
which I guess would be the
So
Solomon foreshadowing that.
one of the healings there is in John 5. You have the man who was 38 years an invalid.
Right.
Yep. There's another example.
Mhm.
And there's also examples of the Pool of Bethesda, but we'll not talk about that yet.
Yeah. Right.
That's north of the Temple Mount. This is south of the Temple Mount. And from the bottom of the Pool of Siloam all the way up basically to the mikvah, as we say is the term,
Mhm.
the pools of baptisms that went on before you went into the temple.
Right.
That area is what is called the city of David. Why was it called the city of David?
It's where he lived, where he had his little palace and everything back in the day.
Right. That's where he had his palace.
Mhm.
The later palaces that took place occurred up toward the Jaffa Gate, with some of the Herods and so forth.
Right.
But David's palace was at the very top of that hill. Now, there are some people who wrongly think that the temple was actually between the city of David and the palace of David.
Mm.
And have you ever heard that?
I never have.
No.
That's a view that some have tried to argue, that the temple was never up on the mount of the Temple Mount as we think of it. It was actually down the hill a tiny bit from the palace of David, and to the beginning of where you had all the rest of the city. See, what we think of as Jerusalem and what we think of the Temple Mount, those are all things that are later than David.
Yeah.
He occupied basically what we think of as the going down the hill all the way to a place called Gehenna. Any idea?
Yeah, that's the horrible place where the Canaanites had burned their children to Molech, and it was a valley of refuse. It was that's why Jesus refers to hell as Gehenna, I think.
Correct.
Right. Sort of a.
And it's a place so that the recent Muslims, when they dug out the temple area underneath the floor of the temple several years ago, they took, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but they took a couple hundred loads of things down to the valley of Hinnom, where they have found much archaeology since they did that.
Yeah.
Remember the name of Gabi Berkai, friend of mine, they're a top archaeologist in Israel. He set up a thing to find things, and they have found enormous, not enormous in big sense, I should say important kinds of archaeological materials that various kinds of jewelry and rings and amulets and all sorts of things down at that place at the bottom of. Well, let's keep moving then.
Wasn't the pool supplied by Hezekiah's tunnel?
Hezekiah's tunnel.
The pool of Siloam?
Yes, you have what was actually not even, at the time David took the place, it was not obviously a Jewish place. He conquered it, right?
Right.
And then there was a place that was dug in the days of Hezekiah.
Right.
Not in the days of David, but in the days of Hezekiah.
But the pool of Siloam was supplied by that water.
That water would have come from Siloam.
Right.
But you do have, and I've been sitting here trying to think of it, I can't think of the name, but there's a place that David actually went into. I shouldn't say it that way. So anyway, the point of it is you have the pool that it's an underground spring that they use.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's keep moving.
Okay.
Onwards.
Now, who were the Essenes? Now we're going to get to the Essenes and Qumran, the important things. Josephus speaks of them, and I guess you know who Josephus was.
Mm-hmm.
A very important person in the history of about not only the Israel and the Romans, but also Jesus.
Jewish historian.
Yeah, Jewish historian. I've read his War of the Jews. I've read his other books that he's written in the past, and he's very interesting to read if you want to read a historian about the times of Christ and thereafter. Fairly accurate. I won't go into the whole question. There's a couple of issues in there, but most of it's pretty good. And I says he speaks about the ascetics, and who were they, by the way?
The who? Just say ascetics? Ascetics?
Ascetics, right there. They were the Essenes.
Oh.
Weren't
Oh,
they?
The Essenes denied themselves considerably.
They had too much acid?
They practiced asceticism.
Correct.
Oh.
Particularly Qumran, they did not marry. There were no children. They did not eat much. They would not squander. I mean, they spent their days basically whatever small chores they did, and they spent the remainder of the days copying the Hebrew manuscripts.
They were super minimalists.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. They were very ritualistic, I suppose you could say.
Mm-hmm. They were moral in nature.
Right.
Again, I've already said they were celibates.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they did live in various cities. We've already talked about that.
Right. They avoided luxury, wealth, and political involvement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's reading something else.
Yes, I just found something. I did.
So they rejected swearing. Now, what do you think they're talking about? Cussing or something else?
Yeah.
Well,
like making pledges, maybe.
We use the word swearing in more than one way.
like I swear to God or something like that.
They would not do that. They would not say that.
They wouldn't make oaths.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They had exalted views of angels.
Ah.
Isn't that interesting? There's an important book the Essenes read as well as others. I'm wondering if you can think about the book. It's used by Jude and Peter.
What was that? Oops. I didn't hear that.
It was a famous book used in the time before the New Testament, which was read by the Essenes, and also it was used later by Peter, the apostle, in 2 Peter.
Are you talking about Enoch?
In the book of Enoch, correct, yes.
Oh, yay.
And also Jude does it.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to read it at my home, I've got a copy of it.
I just got one. Yeah.
But it's very interesting, and it was used by the Essenes, and that's where the statement, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his saints.
Angels or
Oh, interesting.
That's out of Enoch, and as well as many other things.
something.
What developed the Essenes' viewpoints? It becomes the issue. Why did they begin to think the way they did, and they thought so differently than your average Jew living in Jerusalem or other places?
Interesting.
They acted differently. They thought differently.
Mm-hmm.
They also obviously read differently.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what they have there in the Essene community. That's why it becomes so important for us as we understand not only the scripture they wrote, but also the other books they call the secular documents that they wrote. That gives us insight into their thinking.
Interesting.
I'm not a scholar in this area, but I have read quite a few of the books. And they're a fascinating group of people. Now, notice what Josephus continues to talk about their moral life, and they live in cities and variation among groups. They're not all identical. That's true.
Right.
and I've sort of gone through some other things. Exalted view of angels we talked about. Consider the temple worship corrupt. I thought the temple was
that's interesting.
I thought the temple was the big deal of Israel.
Yeah, what's up with that? Huh.
They felt that it become corrupt with politics and money making and
okay,
all the things Jesus, spoke against.
So the actual so the corruption of it, yeah, I get it.
Now, when the Jews came back from the captivity they had,
Mm-hmm.
who was the people that brought them back? Was it Sennacherib? Was it who was the person that brought?
Are you talking about Cyrus?
Yeah, it was Cyrus. I'm just having people to think with me. No, Sennacherib's not the guy. He's the one who took them.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it was later on you find the Persian king,
Right.
who actually releases the Jews and they come back to the land. But the people later on who begin to take charge because of a guy by the name of Antiochus Epiphanes.
Yes.
He's the guy who was one of the 4 generals that took over the great, at that point, almost Greco-Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
After
Alexander.
Yeah.
And Alexander died near India.
Right.
And so they took over, and the Antiochus king was probably the worst of the 4.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get the Jews to become non-Jews.
Yeah.
And so things took place there that becomes to be a problem. And gradually had a guy by the name of Judas Hasmonean. Does that help?
Yeah, Judas Maccabeus.
Mm-hmm.
And what does Maccabeus mean?
He's a hammer.
Well, why did they call him a hammer?
Because he hammered people. Hammered his enemies.
Faber, explain what that means. He hammered people.
He hammered people.
I mean that he gave them what for, we would say here in Texas.
Who did he give what for?
Whoever was oppressing them.
Antiochus Epiphanes et al. I mean, he...
Correct. The people that were basically soldiers and servants of Antiochus, and he actually did the first kind of...
when I say they got hammered, I'm not saying they got drunk.
Right. It's a different hammer.
He drove the point home regularly.
There you go.
Right.
And what you find with Antiochus is, his methodology of fighting was not sufficient to overcome what Judas did, because he developed another form of fighting the Greeks at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of guerrilla fighting. He was a guerrilla.
Excellent.
Yes.
They fought a guerrilla warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize that's the reason why the Americans won so well against the Brits?
Well, yeah, they did the same thing.
They didn't have the viewpoint that like the Greeks at this point, and also the Romans later, where what you do is you march out an open field and let people shoot at you.
In plain sight.
Right.
That's dumb.
That's really true. Our guys that won in America, the Brits would come with their rifles out and they'd just be shot down as the guys would behind the fences and
from the trees in the forest. Yeah. Well, I think the Indians kind of told them, "Hey, it was better if you fight this way." Some of them. So
the British just standing there like, why won't these bloody Americans just line up for us to shoot them like polite, civilized people?
There you go. You got to get your nice British accent.
I tell you, you're right. Anyway, the point, I'm trying to help you understand the history as quickly as I can, but sort of some of the more interesting points of it. So you have a fact that, let's see, I'm trying to figure out where I left off on the Essenes.
Well, our next point bears out something that you said right in the beginning, similarities between the Essenes and the Pharisees, which also translates, I would say, to modern day evangelicals. Belief in immortality of the soul, inspiration of all the Hebrew scriptures. This one I was unaware of, predestination.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Predestination before Calvinism.
How's that?
I think when I was there, the thing that when I was listening to the lecturer talk there at Qumran, I just had this idea that they were just so into eschatology and the apocalyptic coming of the Messiah, and that was like a big part of their focus, right, Dr. House?
That's correct.
Yeah, right.
Very important. Remember, though, and this is why I want to be careful how I say this, but the Pharisees did hold in common, at least with the Essenes, on some of these things.
Right.
And Jesus himself even carried some of this himself. Now, we'll have to talk about that some other time.
Right.
But the fact is, in many areas, they held commonality, and that's where I'm moving in our presentation here. I hope you're getting a good help of me trying to go through and explain everything and make sense of all of this.
Yes, because it connects to a lot of history, obviously. Because
I used to read a lot, so
no way.
Yeah, I used to. Then I stopped reading. I couldn't figure it out.
No. Speaking of that,
now you just make stuff up.
You just mixed up the Maccabean revolt, which was when you were talking about Antiochus.
Yes.
So then they finally won.
Notice the last thing we have here: apocalyptic and messianic. This is where we're going to for the rest of our talks, probably on this area. Apocalyptic means what, and what does messianic relate to all this?
About the Messiah
means revealed, I believe.
Well, what's apocalyptic first?
It's that which is revealed. The mystery that's revealed is what's apocalyptic.
And so they believe themselves to be, the Essenes believe themselves to be the sons of light who receive revelation from God by their faithfulness to reading scripture. And also people like Enoch, as I mentioned, and they developed a whole eschatology, a whole view of last things.
Right.
And Messiah becomes part of that. Isn't that interesting at this juncture, considering what's going on all the way through around Jerusalem? And we didn't cover the fact, why were they against the temple? Because a bunch of Sadducees from the Hasmoneans after the time of Antiochus took over the temple. The Pharisees did, and the Sadducees ran the temple. And they didn't have very good viewpoints. So that's a viewpoint that we need to look to.
That institutional religion had lost its integrity spiritually.
Became political very much. They were money makers.
Right.
But they also held these bad views.
Sure.
So now we've gone to the issue of apocalyptic and messianic to the next slide.
Ta-da.
So, early understanding of the Messiah among the Jewish people. Now, when I say Jewish people, not all Jewish people held the same view.
Right.
Some of the Jewish people believed that all that Messiah was good for basically was to get rid of the Romans or the Greeks or somebody around them. They weren't thinking in the spiritual line. What's so fascinating when Judas, my goodness,
Iscariot?
Huh?
Iscariot?
No. In the second century, early second century, he was defeated by Hadrian.
BC or AD? BC? Second century?
He was called Judas
Maccabean? Is that the one?
No. I know what it is, but I can't think of it right now. He was a wonder maker. People consider him a wonder maker, and to get rid of the Romans. But actually, he was defeated. And
you're not talking about Bar Kokhba, are you?
Oh yes, see, I couldn't get it in my head.
That was the other one.
Bar Kokhba.
I can never pronounce, but it's like Simon Bar Kokhba or something.
Simon Bar Kokhba.
Yeah, Bar Kokhba. Yeah.
Anyway, Simon came along saying he was Messiah, and people believed it. But then they ended up putting him to death because he never could do any miracles to save them.
Right.
So that's sort of interesting how things go sometimes. But the fact of Simon was a later time who came as Messiah, but the Jews at Qumran and the Jews that supported Simon, which, by the way, was quite a bit of time after the coming of the Romans in AD 70, in the time of Simon, we're talking about early 2nd century under Hadrian the Emperor.
Okay. This is
But
later.
you have this movement in Qumran that's quite different from the rest of the Jewish faith.
Hmm.
That's the point we're trying to make here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can compare many things between Qumran and Yeshua in the Gospels, and that's what's so fascinating that we're going to get to. Probably we'll not do it tonight, but what's going to be fascinating is that we've already said the Jews had different views.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for a savior of some sort, not as a soul, but of getting off the Romans.
Right.
The people at Qumran had very little to do with that whatsoever.
Right.
And you find that when you get to the comparison of what happens in the 2nd and 1st century, the Qumran people had the more correct understanding of Messiah than did your average people.
Hmm.
Now, that's not to say that some Jews didn't become better because Jesus taught them himself.
Right.
But before Jesus did this, it's the people at Qumran, the Essenes, who have their heads screwed on straight. Okay?
Thank God.
Okay, we're probably going to get through this one slide, and then we'll have to pick it up next week.
Yes, technical terminology. I just want to be sure you understand it.
Gotcha.
Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're going to pick this up next time. There's some fascinating things I'm going to show you, because you're going to find so many comparisons between the events in the life of Christ and the words of Christ and all the kinds of things we see in the ministry of Christ that you find in the Qumran documents before the time of Christ.
Hmm.
I've always found that interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
They're written in the 1st and 2nd century BC.
Right.
Contain the rules and regulations of Essene life, which in some respects is also found in Jesus' teaching. Not all, not all. And all the Old Testament books were discovered in Qumran, but one book, and I want to see if you can tell me why maybe not this book. One book, except for the book of Esther.
Right. I believe it's because it doesn't mention God in it, or any mention of.
Yeah, it doesn't mention God's name or something.
Yeah.
I heard you say that in a lecture, Dr. House. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I think you'll find that you have in the book of Esther, if I remember correctly. I'm going to check this out because I'm not sure myself. But I think the name Yahweh occurs. Maybe I'm wrong. But
Esther, I don't believe it does in Esther.
Yeah, that may be the case, and I've got to check that before I speak to it. But I also think they had a prejudice against about a woman.
That's possible too. That's quite possible.
We'll look at that later. Any other questions before we end tonight?
Well, I have one. I'm going to intrude on everybody because I can, just because I can do what I want.
There you go.
And that is, the Book of Enoch was found there in the cache of materials. Now, as I understand it, the Book of Enoch, although it doesn't really go back to Enoch himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Although some people seem to think it does.
No,
But actually, they started writing it in the 2nd or 3rd century BC,
right,
and finished it about 800 AD.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a compilation over a long period of time. And although the Jews in the 1st century were familiar with the book, it was never considered scripture to our knowledge. And there's some kind of weird stuff in it.
Yeah.
So it seems to me, my understanding is that it gives us a good picture into what they believed at the time. But some of it is also musings about the end time, trying to figure out when certain things might happen, for example. So it's not really inspired scripture.
It'd be nice if you could maybe give us a summary next week or something. Just we could all kind of the idea of what's in the Book of Enoch.
Well, there's a lot to read if you read that, but let me go to Don's statement,
Okay.
and that is that your understanding, and you'll have to think on this between now and next time. Your understanding is that because it is not a book of the Old Testament, that it does not contain truth that was understood by the apostles.
No, that is not what I'm saying.
Okay.
It would be sort of like Paul using the poets and philosophers in Acts 17.
Mm-hmm.
He used that to demonstrate truth that even pagan poets and philosophers understood. But that doesn't mean that those writings were inspired and inerrant.
True.
So I would say the Book of Enoch falls in that kind of a category.
Yes.
Sure.
I'd say the portions that are not inspired by God in the Book of Enoch, in other words, the portions that are not accurate and understood and passed down. Remember, these things were passed down over generations.
Right.
And in the Book of Enoch, a couple of things, not just that thing, but a couple of things are found that are picked up by Jude and Second Peter
Correct.
and other scripts and given truth infirmity.
And possibly alluded to by Jesus, at least at one area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'd have to look at that, but I'm not sure of that.
Yeah.
But I am sure of a couple of places, and so I think that that's important. Okay?
Cool.
All righty. Well, listen, I think everybody knows so much now that you'll be able to pass a test next week.
More than what we knew yesterday.
So, you take some time to, this is light reading, really. So you have a chance to get into this, be sure to do so.
Sounds cool.
And we will have some very interesting materials next week because we're going to go into the Qumran documents and the New Testament and look at it together.
Nice.
Very cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. So for those out there and watching us, we will be back next week. Join us at 8 o'clock Central Time.
And
Yes.
Lord willing,